Hello everyone, back to tuning into today's second video. We're doing the El Nino update for August today. The first video on the homepage is looking at autumn analogues with my good friend Stuart Markham, who sent over some very interesting analogues for the autumn. And that's sort of in preparation for next week's autumn forecast, which will be issued at GasObvious.com next Sunday. I said that's on the home page. This video here on the ENSO page is concentrating, as you expect, being on the ENSO page, let's be honest, is concentrating on El Nino. We've been looking at this very regularly through the last few months. We're almost there now in terms of having the El Nino designated. We have El Nino conditions in the Pacific. It will be designated probably next month. We'll have a look at all the information on it in a moment. It's all getting very, very interesting though. Before I get on with that, I just want to say about the ads. There's links to articles on all pages at GasObvious.com. Have a browse through widgets. If there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read the article. And thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most of the pages. They open out within the content. When you've watched them, they'll close back up again. It's all helping to pay for the website, so thanks for getting involved. And thanks for doing that. So as I say, things are getting interesting now with the El Nino because we're almost there in terms of having it designated. It is starting to have effects now on the global weather system. So let's just start off with the global temperature for July, which has come out as a new land and sea temperature record. So this chart is from NOAA, and instead you're going to be seeing some different information in today's video. You'll be able to find the link to all of it on the links page. I'm throwing in the kitchen sink really with this one, so I hope you enjoyed it. It's going to be a little bit different compared to what we've seen before in terms of certain things we're looking at anyway. And this is the first thing that we haven't looked at before. This is the land and ocean temperature anomalies from NOAA, NOAA in the United States. And this is just sort of telling us that we've had a record break in July. If you take the land temperature and the ocean temperature together, it's been the hottest July on record since I think about 1880, something like that, when records began. If you just take the land temperature alone, though, it's only the 6th warmest July, so definitely the ocean's having a big impact. And of course, you can't look any further than the El Nino. I think this is probably the first warmer than average month that we've had. Record-breaking month that we've had in this El Nino event, and I would assume there's going to be more months coming out like this over the next few months because it's a big El Nino event anyway, which will spike the temperature of the planet. In conjunction with that, of course, we've got climate change going on as well, so I would assume we're going to get more months breaking records over the next few months until this all starts to cool down through the course of next year. If you want to see this website from NOAA, see the report on July, you can find the link to it on the links page. This is the website, and it's some fantastic information here. You should always try and check this out. There's a full report on what happened across the globe during July. It actually says somewhere here, it says that the combined average temperature over global land and ocean surfaces for July 2015 was the highest for July in the 136-year period. So just backs up the idea it has been a record break in July. There's loads of information from around the world really on what's been going on. It does mention the UK. There's a little mention of the UK there. Record breaking heat was observed in parts of southern United Kingdom at the beginning of July, including the highest temperature recorded since August 2003. However, the heat did not last as it reverted to an Atlantic westerly flow and brought in cooler than average temperatures for much of the remainder of the month. So it does mention the UK, but also mentions other parts of the world as well. It's just a fantastic website to check out to see all the information. So you can find a link to that on the links page. So this is from NOAA, and this is the sea surface temperature anomaly map for the world And what we're looking at, of course, specifically, is what's going on in the Pacific. It's very interesting what's happening in the Atlantic, on a very cold northern Atlantic Ocean at the moment. But for this update, we're interested in the situation in the Pacific from, I'm sure you know it by now, but I have to assume people are watching for the first time. So from Peru over here through to Indonesia over here, when we get this warming coming up along the equatorial Pacific Ocean, that is the signature of El Nino. Conversely, when we get cold water rising up along the equatorial Pacific, and we may see this next year, don't want to mention too much about that just yet, but we may see this next year, when you get cold water rising up through the equatorial Pacific, that's the cold event. That is La Nina. So let's just get rid of my colours. And again, you can see the latest situation is definitely that we've got an El Nino signature. There's clearly warming going on through this central part of the equatorial Pacific. So the signature of El Nino is well and truly there. Now, to get an El Nino designated, you have to have the temperature anomaly going over 0.5 degrees above average. We've definitely got that. And it's got to do it over 5 tri-monthly periods. We're getting very close to getting to 5 tri-monthly periods. So I think probably next month this is going to be designated as an official El Nino, and then it'll be a case of waiting to see just how strong it gets through the remainder of the year. It has strengthened since the last update that we did in July. So let's just take a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly map for July. This was the one that we used for the July update from the 16th of July. I think you can clearly see it through the central part of the equatorial Pacific. We have seen further warming through this middle part. Interestingly, there's been a little bit of cooling over towards the Peruvian side. So let's just go back. And this is the situation in July towards Peru, which is just there. Bright red colours, that's where the warmest part of the event was occurring in July. If we go forwards again, have a look at this month, the latest map, you can see there has been ever such a slight cooling here off the coast of Peru. And this could be the start of the El Nino becoming Modoki or Mediki base, which is where we get a central based El Nino. It means that this central part of the equatorial Pacific is warmer than over on the eastern side near the Peruvian side where it's cooler. When that happens, that is a Modoki or a Madiki or a Mediki El Nino. I'm not sure quite how you say it, but essentially it's a central based El Nino, and its effects can be rather different to a regular El Nino. And the fact that we're already starting to see things cooling just a little bit off the Peruvian coast since last month, that could be indicative of things beginning to shift into a central based El Nino. You will hear a lot more about Modoki, Mediki, Mediki, central based El Ninos. You'll hear a lot more about them when I do the winter updates, which will start next month. I think the first will be on the 6th of September, but it can potentially be quite important whether you have a regular El Nino, which is warmest from the eastern side, or whether you have it centrally based. That could be one of the things we look at for the winter. SOI has been very negative over the past months. This is the Southern Oscillation Index. What this is effectively doing, it's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the Southern Pacific Ocean in terms of barometric pressure from Darwin in Australia to Tahiti out in the middle part of the middle part of the Southern Pacific Ocean, I should say. When the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, goes negative, it's telling us that the atmosphere is really reflecting an El Nino state. Conversely, when it goes positive, it's sort of swinging into a La Nina, a cold event state. Now you see all of these negative numbers here that quite clearly the atmosphere is now very much reflecting El Nino. So from the 26th of July through the 27th, 28th, 29th, we go from -12 down to -31. And then we have these very negative numbers going through to the start of August, dates just here, of course. So, for example, 3rd of August comes out at -37, and the 4th comes out at -39. The 5th comes out at minus 32, exceptionally negative numbers over a sustained period, which means that the atmosphere, the oceans hook up and they allow the El Nino to continue to build and build and build. The warm event continues to strengthen. Coming down to the latest situation, still very negative with these numbers. So, for example, the 14th of August comes out at minus 30, 15th minus 31, 16th minus 28, a little bit less negative then for the 17th and 18th, minus 17 and minus 7 respectively, but back it comes, minus 16 on the 19th of August, minus 31 on the 20th and minus 21 on the 23rd. Sustained negativity of the Southern Oscillation Index means that quite obviously we are reflecting the El Nino with the atmosphere now. The atmospheric setup is one that is very conducive towards El Nino, and what that essentially means is that you start to get lots of high pressure in this sort of area around Indonesia and northern Australia, and you start to get lots of low pressure through these sort of areas, bringing tremendous amounts of rain. So let's have a look at some forecasts now to see what's predicted to happen with this El Nino. And here we go again. The CFS-V2 is very much going for a record-breaking El Nino event. It's had this for quite a few months now, and I've been expecting it to be sort of toning it down. It's not doing it, and it's still showing a record-breaking El Nino event. So the mean ensemble line, which is this black line here, tells us where we are and where we've been with El Nino. We're just here currently, and this is where we've been, of course, through to October 2014, just there. That's the mean line, and you can see that by the time you get through to the end of the year, this is sort of November, December period just here, and we are at +3 Celsius in terms of the temperature anomaly through the central part of the equatorial Pacific. This is the temperature just here, showing that we do get to 3 degrees above average in terms of the anomaly. It's been consistent with this, and that does beat the strongest El Nino on record, which is 97, 98, if it comes off. I've been expecting it, I'm still, in many ways, am expecting this to correct downwards and not to be a record breaker, but month by month we don't see it correcting, and I am beginning to wonder now whether at sort of October, November time we may actually be in a record breaking El Nino event. This is for region 3.4, remember, and just quickly to say about that, region 3.4 is just here in the central part of the equatorial Pacific. Region 1.2 is just here over towards the Peruvian side of the equatorial Pacific. So it's showing 3 degrees by the time we get through to the autumn in this middle of the autumn, end of the year, in this central part of the equatorial Pacific as the anomaly. For region 1.2, it's cooler, so it's still going with that idea that we're going to have a Modoki central-based El Nino. Been doing this quite consistently as well. So when region 3.4 has the temperature anomaly up here, region 1.2, which is over towards the Peruvian side, is in this sort of zone just here. So it's around, it is pretty warm still, even at the end of the year. It's sort of at 1.5 degrees above average as the anomaly, but it's not right up there at 3 degrees as we see through the central part of the equatorial Pacific. So quite clearly the CFS-V2 is going for a record-breaking central-based El Nino event, and it's, as I've been doing this very, very consistently over the past few months as well. Very quickly to say about next year, I was speculating in the last video, but we may start to see a quick transition from El Nino to La Nina. Still not really going for a La Nina next year, but you see there is a big temperature drop still being predicted here from the CFS-V2, so by the time we get through to April, we are back down close to average really in terms of the anomaly in region 3.4. That's a big plunge from where we are at the start of the year, which is just here. It's something like 2 degrees, 2-degree temperature drop through the central equatorial Pacific in the space of about 3 or 4 months. So a huge drop in temperature, not yet down to La Nina, but to me that does look like it could be where things are going into next year. The black line here, which of course is the trend line, that may well finish up looking more like that, doing something like that as we get through into next year. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. There are other models, of course, so let's have a look at Jamstech, and here we go again. The blue line here is telling us where we've been with ENSO. The red line is the ensemble mean line, and that's telling us where we're forecast to go. And it's almost going into record-breaking territory. It's not going quite as high as CFS V2. It's going to sort of 2.5 to 2.7 degrees above average at its peak, which is forecast to be anywhere from around September, October, that sort of time. But CFS V2 is taking it up to that sort of level. But Jamstech isn't going quite as high as that. And I don't think this is quite beating 97, 98. So this is closer to my expectations that whilst it's going to be a very strong El Nino event, I don't think it will be a record breaker. That's been my suspicion all the way along. I'm starting to have a few doubts about it because CFS V2 is not backing off, but my suspicion is that it won't have a record breaker. I don't think the Jamstech ID does give us a record breaker. It is quite close to it. Don't think it quite does it, but a very strong event in any case being forecast. Notice again this red line, the trend line, is dipping down very quickly through the early part of next year. Again, the dates are along the bottom of the chart, so this is January 2016 through to July. And again, it's not going for a landing yet, except for this outlier member, which sort of does what I was talking about, which is a big plunge down, rather like that. But that's an outlier at this stage, so the Jamstech is not seeing a landing setting up next year, but nevertheless it is seeing a big cool off taking place, and to have such a quick drop in the temperature from a strong El Nino to sort of neutral conditions by spring, I think that is hinting at a landing possibly getting going next year. And then finally, the E70UF, in terms of these forecasts anyway, E70UF, that I think again is going for a record breaker. This is the latest ensemble plume. So what we see here is the temperatures on the side of the chart. We've got 4 degrees above average just there, down to average just there. Remember, around 3 degrees is where we need to get to have a record-breaking El Nino. And you see that most of these members, the dates are on the bottom, by the way, most of these members are sort of within that ballpark, really, as we're going through into the end of the year. So again, October, November, December, just there. Actually, a lot of the members are going a little bit higher than that, go above 3 degrees in this sort of zone just here. So again, I think really the CFS, the E70UF, I should say, is certainly going for a very strong El Nino event. It's possibly is going for a record breaker. Notice again through the start of next year we've got this downwards trend taking place here. So it does see a dramatic cool off as we get through the start of next year. Again, not going to La Nina at this stage, but it is seeing that the early part of next year will see a quick cool off in the temperature through that central part of the equatorial Pacific Ocean. Thought I'd just throw this one in. I've not used this one for this particular El Nino event yet, but this just sort of gives you an idea of some of the impacts that we tend to see from an El Nino event, a warm event. You see it's mainly a southern hemispheric phenomenon, but it does have impacts for some parts of the northern hemisphere. For instance, Japan tends to be quite warm and dry. Here's all the wet weather that you get through the Peruvian part of the equatorial Pacific, into that middle part of the equatorial Pacific, you tend to get it warm and wet there. Whereas Northern Australia, as I was saying, you tend to get it quite dry in that area, and you also get it quite dry into Indonesia as well, and some parts of Africa, South Africa, go quite dry also. America tends to get it wet through the southwest around California and that sort of area, so it'd be useful for them if they can get some rain down there in the southwest of the states. And other southern parts of America tends to get it quite cold and wet, actually, so you can get some unusual snowfalls turning up in places like Dallas and in Texas. You can get some snow turning up there. Further north, it tends to be quite warm and dry up over Canada. And as far as we're concerned, over in Europe, you see that we're in this white area, which means sort of climatology. It means that there's no real definitive effect from El Nino for us. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have an effect. It does have an effect on our weather and on European weather, but for us it's not a uniform effect. These effects that we're seeing here, particularly in the southern hemisphere, are sort of singularities. They are effects that we see time and time again when we have an El Nino. We don't get that in the UK and in Europe. We do get affected by the El Nino because the whole of weather circulation is interlinked, really. So what's going on in one place will have an effect in another place, but the effects are not uniform for us. So for example, in 97-98 we had a very warm winter with that record-breaking strong El Nino, whereas in 2009-2010 we had a really cold winter, our coldest winter since 1979, again with quite a strong El Nino going on. So there are other factors at play for us, aren't there always? It makes my job very difficult, but it will have an effect on our weather. Don't get me wrong, we will be affected by this El Nino through this winter, but what those effects are, we cannot yet say. Now, as I've been saying, I think we are going to get this El Nino designated very soon, so I just want to show you this chart. I haven't used this before. This is from NOAA, NCEP, and NOAA in the United States. You'll be able to find a link to this on the links page. This is showing all the cold and warm event episodes going back to 1950. Blue here is La Nina. And this starts at 1950, so it's a La Nina going on in the year of 1950. Red is showing El Nino events. So we see, for example, that in 1957, 1958, just here, we have an El Nino, a warm event taking place. Again, you'll be able to find links to this on the links page if you want to look at all these years that had El Ninos and La Ninas. But what we're interested in is what's going on at the moment. As I say, you need to be above 0.5 degrees over 5 tri-monthly periods to get an El Nino actually designated. We have had that over 4 tri-monthly periods. So we've got this one just here coming out at plus 0.5 degrees above average. This one coming out at 0.7 degrees above average. This one coming out at 0.9 degrees above average. And then the last one comes out at 1 degree above average. Clearly, this next box will show an above average number as well. That will be our 5 tri-monthly periods. And when that happens, you will have an El Nino officially designated by the guys that do all of this in NOAA and in other meteorological agencies around the world. They will finally, when we get this critical 5th number to put in this box, they will finally designate this El Nino as a proper official event. And it'll just be a case then of seeing how big the numbers get as we go further along through these empty boxes. It'll be very interesting to see how big the numbers become. To give you some idea, 97, 98 looks like this. So at its peak, we were sort of at 2.2, 2.3 above average in this latter part of 1997. I think we'll be somewhere around that with this event. Whether we get above that, I'm not sure, but I think we will get really quite close to 97, 98. And obviously for from next month onwards, these numbers should start to go red then, because the El Nino will be officially with us. So it's all getting very, very exciting indeed. This is part of the ENSO recent evolution, current status and prediction PDF. You can find a link to this on the links page. Just want to throw this in because it's a great website. It's a fantastic resource. It has all this information about El Nino. The headline is El Nino conditions are present. I say not quite yet designated, it will be next month, but that's the headline. El Nino conditions are present. Loads of information here. I'll just scroll through. I haven't got time to go through all of this because I'll be going on for far too long. But look at all this information that you can get from this PDF report. It just goes on and on and on with loads and loads of information. So you can find the link to that on the links page as well. I really am throwing in the kitchen sink for you for this one. So I hope you enjoyed the video. El Nino is here now. It has arrived. It's set in. It'll be designated, I think, officially next month. Then it'll be a case of seeing where we go with it. Do we get a record breaker, or is it just a strong or a very strong event? Time, as they say, will tell. All of this will start to become very important, particularly if this becomes a central base El Nino through the winter updates, and they'll be starting, as I said, in September. I think I'll be doing the first one on Sunday, the 6th of September. So yeah, it's all getting pretty exciting. Well, that's it for now. We'll do another update on El Nino next month when I think we'll have it officially designated. It'll make up a big part of winter updates in any case. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.